What's going on, everybody? I'm Jukebox Ginger, host of the Stardom Podcast, and I'm coming at you with another episode of Clash of the Casters. I've got three beautiful men with me tonight. Not that I'm gay. Sean wants
No need to qualify that.
Oh, it is what it is. Sean, man, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Sean. I'm a certified peer support specialist up here in Anchorage, Alaska. I'm also a veteran of the U.S. Army, 12 and a half years medically retired for traumatic brain injury.
Right on, man. Right on. I'm glad to have you on here tonight. He is also a fellow beard ambassador, like me, for Jim Bob's Grizzly Beard Care. M-Bomb, man. Tell everybody
Yes,
who you are.
I am M-Bomb. I'm the host of the M-Bomb Effect, as you can see here. It's good times, man. Always a good time collaborating with you guys, and I enjoy doing podcasts. I mean, just to meet different people, have a different dialogue. My buddies and I sit in our studio. We crack jokes. We talk about society. We talk about all kinds of different things. So, good times.
Right on, right on. Thanks for coming on, man.
No problem.
And Cory, man, it's your stage.
How's it going, everybody? Nice to meet you. Good meeting you guys. Thanks for being here. I'm Cory Kastle, Philadelphia-based professional wrestler, stand-up comedian, actor, and podcaster, host of Evolving with Cory Kastle, as seen right here on this banner. And also
I love that banner.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Also co-host of the Wrestle Rock podcast. We're going on our 9th year, I think, right now.
Holy crap, 9 years?
Yeah, dude.
I knew that. You've been around. That's been around longer than Evolving with Cory Kastle, correct?
Oh, yeah. Evolving, I started that in 2017.
Right on.
And I think
you've had some amazing people on your show too, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you just you're real. One thing about you, is you're real. We all have like different style podcasts, and I love it. You got M-Bomb over here who's got 4 or 5 guys in a room talking to each other. So, and you and I are just we both I wouldn't say we really interview people.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
dude,
really.
I feel like I want to have the type of conversations with people that I'd want to listen to if I weren't me. Really,
Right.
That's really what I'd want. So I'd be like, I'd want the host of a show I'd like to have the kind of conversations that are just like casual, getting to know each other as friends kind of conversations.
Right.
Instead of like some forced, like I've got to hit these points and I've got to make sure I say these things. And this is the allotted time I have for this segment and that segment. All of that is just too produced. That's too overly canned.
Yeah.
And I don't need all that manufactured effort.
Oh, man, yeah, it takes a lot of work to set up scripts and like plan out a whole show like that. M-Bomb, I know you have those issues sometimes.
It's funny because we started doing scripts and it's just not my style. Like I had like a outline of things and I'm just like, you know what, this is not something I'm into. So we just have key points and we talk, we shoot the shit about it. Like it's just we watch videos, we comment on the videos, and then just all kinds of different stuff. So
Right. So for today's topic of Clash of the Casters, the whole spiritual beliefs. Going into this, I want everybody to just be open-minded. Obviously, ask questions to each other. But this was all, Sean and I were talking about it, and he wanted to hear some more. So I was like, dude, let's do a show about it. So here we are.
Okay.
And I grew up. I don't know about you guys. Let's kind of talk about our backgrounds a little bit. As a child, I went to church 4 days a week, every holiday. Stuff that I learned in school was regulated through my church. I was Pentecostal, and it was definitely a cult. I'd go to church, then I'd come home and get beat by my stepdad. Just for years, and that was my life. And when we actually left my stepdad, we also changed religions, and it just was like this barrel roll of different churches and different perceptions of the same verses. And it just, I kind of got away from it because I got tired of it, man. I just felt like it was somebody telling me how they believed. And I never really cared for that. Sean, what you got, man?
So I was raised in in a Mennonite church when I was a kid. And
wow.
if you guys know what Mennonite is, it's a step above Amish. Like we had a car, we had radio, we had TV, but outside of that, my grandparents had us dress a certain way. I had these dorky pink glasses growing up, and when my dad got custody of my sister and I, we converted to apostolic, which is just a step below Catholicism.
Right.
And then I got kicked out as at 15 years old and moved back down to my grandparents' house, and they had switched to Pentecostal. So that was a whole different shift. I felt like I went to extremes when I was being raised, but I can definitely relate to you about the strict upraising and the strict punishments. My grandpa had a heavy hand. He was a Marine. He had a heavy hand. My dad had a heavy fist. And yeah, so I can definitely relate, and that's why I one of the reasons why I am where I am today.
Right. Okay, and Bomb.
Yeah, so I growing up, it was like nothing really, there was nothing pretty much. So until my grandmother passed away in 1999, and then my family started going to this Catholic church, and needless to say, we got baptized and all that. So in my early 11, 12 years old type era, that's where we were at. It was the Catholic church. So we'd go, and when I was a kid, you don't really know any better, and you just kind of go along with it, and you just don't know any better, like I said. So over time, it's like, okay, you start thinking, all right, what's real? So as a teenager, I fell off, obviously, as we all do, and I get in my late 20s. I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's give it a shot. I started talking to this guy who was actually working at the company I work at now, and he was just heavy Christian, not Catholic or anything, just heavy Christian. And so I started going back to the old church, and it was fine at first. I got into the Bible. I was listening to it as I was driving for work, and over time, I was just like, I would go, and then it started feeling like you said, a cult. The whole get up, everyone's getting in line to take this wafer and some wine, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not feeling right about this. And it's like, I have no problem believing in a God. What I have a problem with is the fact that people are just blindly following orders, I guess you could say. I don't know, and I know we'll get more into it, but as of right now, yeah, I just this is where I'm at now. I'm looking for the truth, actual factual stuff, like
Right.
what is
Actual factual.
Factual.
Always.
There's actually a church called Actual Factual, if you didn't know that.
Oh no, I didn't.
No, that's that's this church. We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
We're at Actual Factual Church right now.
Yeah. Corey, how about you, man?
Bro, I feel like the least qualified person to go last on this, because usually you send the closer up. But for me, I was in Catholic school from first to third grade, and we went to church every Sunday, and it sucked. And I have not much a whole lot more to say about it than it just kind of sucked. And and it was like I would only kind of do it because my grandma believed in it, and I just was like, oh, I know, well, she'll be proud of me if I like the things she likes.
Right.
And we watch pro wrestling together. It's the same shit. It's the same shit. Church and pro wrestling.
I remember when a bunch of us kids, it's funny, they were they're not baptizing, but the pastor was going around laying their hands and getting everybody to speak in tongues or whatever. And all the kids were doing it. So I intentionally faked speaking in tongues.
Did you just do an impression of Tasmanian Devil?
And nothing against it. I just, my belief on it, man. I don't know. It's weird stuff, especially as a kid. Actually, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Seeing a bunch of people speaking in tongues is pretty creepy.
Can I ask everybody, what was your first interaction with an atheist person, and what are standout memories and we'll go back around. Everybody can
Yeah,
that
yeah,
place.
no, of course. Actually, I went to culinary school with a kid whose dad was like the lead of a temple. It was an atheist temple, and they were both
That's-
really cool guys. Actually, believe it or not, they were just you live and you die. Like that's what they believed, and it is what it is. I don't. I think that's a little too bland, in my opinion. There's just too much out there to believe that that's it.
It's a weird hill to choose to die on, and then had nothing happen to your soul.
You're telling me sex before marriage doesn't get me anywhere? Just
I'd have to say for me, it was weird. It came in my late 20s, well, mid 20s. I was on a deployment in Afghanistan, and I just got into a conversation with the atheist, and I was trying to do the spiritual thing and read verses out of the Bible.
You were
And
trying to witness.
yeah, I was trying to witness, and
Mhm.
that's not exactly what was needed. What
Right.
was needed was a reason as to why I believed, and that really to me was a turning point, because I had to question myself. Why do I believe? Well, do I actually really believe? And if I really do believe, how much do I believe in? And that started me on this path of like, okay, I would call it enlightening, but that started me on a path of like, I need to find my own way, not just something I was fed when I was a kid and then just progressed.
Right.
When you were young, did you get to have like Rumspringer, or was that not for Mennonite?
No, that wasn't for Mennonite. No, it was just it was more along the lines of like everybody stayed in their own families. We took care of each other in the community, and yeah, you just punished your kids really, really strictly.
What was the BO like?
You know, to be honest, I mean, it wasn't bad. Everybody took showers. I mean, we had the modern amenities, but like, as far as like what you believed in, yeah, that was a strict portion of it. A lot of the families worked on farms. My grandfather was an electrician for the University of Maryland, so yeah, but a lot of people were farmers, so that was kind of weird.
yeah.
Did you guys make your own clothes like Amish people? Or
No.
Is that shops? There's
No, that was
Mennonite
shops. No. Well, I mean, we went to Walmart and stuff like that. Like my grandma was too lazy to do any of that, so we went to Walmart for all of our stuff. But yeah.
M-Bomb, have you ever met or had a conversation with an atheist?
Yeah, not really like that. I know atheist people. Never really got into it with them on that level. But like, you do start thinking like, okay, where are they coming from, right? And like logically, you're like, okay, logically by science, right? You're talking like once you're here and you're gone, that's it, like you said before. But then like that's their belief. Just like anybody
Right.
else's belief. Like some people believe there's a heaven, some people believe there's Valhalla. I don't know. There's just all kinds of different beliefs.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a theory. I mean,
Yes.
look at Jurassic Park, for instance. Let's just dive into this real quick.
Okay.
So the guy's sitting on the toilet, right? And the T-Rex is looking for him, and he smashes the porta potty or whatever he's in, and he eats them. Turn the movie off. Actually, turn the TV off. That would be their instant of death. Like that would be their thought process. That's it. Nothingness. So like you think about that, like okay, but I mean on another level though, when I was a kid. And I'm talking like in the 90s, so I was really young. This is crazy story, so get ready for this one. So I'm in the bathroom washing my hands, and I look in the mirror and I see this headless guy with a tattered, like a baby blue windbreaker. It was all tattered, and he's like walking back and forth. And like as a kid, I'm like not even like sure what to think of it. And I remember looking like to my left where he would be. He wasn't there. He was only in the mirror. So I'm like, okay, I gotta get the hell out of here. I went to get my mom, come back to the bathroom, and it's gone. So I'm like, okay. So then I think about that as an adult, like, okay, what was that? And you know how adults are. Like, oh, that's your imagination. Like, yeah, sure, totally. When I'm 5 years old, I'm thinking about a decapitated guy, right? No. So
I mean, I was decapitating
sure
frogs
you
at
are.
5 years old.
Well,
in the
well,
basement.
if he was in the bathroom mirror, he was decapitated.
Yeah, he was definitely decapitated. But yeah,
But
no.
no, you're right though, man. I mean, the problem is that's belief, right?
Yeah.
What
I
did
mean,
you see?
I think it could be some paranormal thing. If
Yeah.
you like thought about it, like what's your like adult brain think about that now?
So I would be I'm skeptic on a lot of things.
Uh,
I would be skeptic on the paranormal had I had not experienced that and other countless paranormal experiences. And I did see something as an adult back in 2016. I was doing security, and I was doing patrols and in the buildings and stuff. And this one building is actually very notable because if you don't know the case of Kaylee Polton, that's where they found her body in a water tank in the boiler room. So that building was creepy. And I wasn't the only one that experienced things there. It was actually a lot of other security officers and such that I worked with. They would hear like chatter, and I've heard chatter too. And then one guy was like, "Oh no, it's radios," because it was the radio facility for the government. And then, yeah, you'd hear doors closing, nobody's there. But the one night that I remember distinctly is the night I went into the cafeteria and I opened the double doors. I went to go grab for my flashlight because it was pitch black in there. They, for some reason, that was the one building they really wanted to keep the lights off to save
Right.
money. Yeah, the haunted one. And I turn around to the double doors, and there's something standing there, like a shadow, and I couldn't see through it. Now you're supposed to see the ambient light from the backup lighting or whatever, and there's something standing right there in the middle. And I'm on the phone with my supervisor, and I'm like, "Hold on, Mike, hold on." And I'm trying to adjust my eyes to register what I'm seeing. And as soon as I try to do that, it starts running. Like you know how a toddler, like a little kid, runs? They like have a gallop to them.
Mhm.
That's what it moved like, but it wasn't the size of a kid though, and that's what really got me. So I bolted through the doors and turned to where the hallway was that it left to,
Right.
and this hallway is really long. And the amount of time I took to get to the hallway, I should have seen somebody running, but nobody was there. So
Right.
it sticks with you.
That's crazy, man. And I've got an experience too, but I want to get into that topic after we kind of finish with our religious beliefs because I think it'll kind of lead into that. But I'm curious what everybody's stance is now. You know, whether it is I'm not sure or this is what I think, because it's always curious to hear what people's beliefs are. And for me, you know, I've talked to Sean about this yesterday. Is I believe that we are created as an energy to learn lessons and that our physical forms, our physical bodies don't last long enough. It's just a capsule for us to learn these lessons. So we are reincarnated until we learn all the lessons that we need to learn before we can ascend to whatever it is, whether it's another planet, you know, another heaven. I don't believe in hell. I think, you know, we're living in hell, you know, the physical pain that we endure and the emotions that we go through, that's, you know, that's hell, you know, and being able to process through that. But it's part of the learning process of our energies, you know, to ascend and be at a level to ascend, we have to learn all that there is to learn. So, and you know, as far as a higher power goes, there could be, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah.
So in the search and the quest to find out where I fell, you know, where I fit in, because that's in my whole life I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere, like school. You know, I was a marching band nerd. I didn't even feel like I fit in the marching band. You know what I mean? That's terrible. That's terrible when you don't even fit in the marching band. But you know, through adulthood, I started searching out where I felt like I fit in, and I studied many different religions, many different beliefs, from Satanism, demonism, all the way to like Buddhism, Islam, and then I found Norse paganism. And when I found Norse paganism, I felt like I was at home.
Okay.
And it wasn't because it was like, come on, you know, we accept you. It was because of the beliefs that they hold. Even the Vikings themselves, they take care of their family. They take care of their community. They're very family and community oriented. They defend theirs with their life, and they fight for what they want, and they fight for what they need. And that's how I've lived my whole life.
Okay.
I fought for what I wanted, what I needed, and then I started doing research, and I started, reading the Havamal, and I started reading Norse mythology, and I was like, man, this is where I belong. And now being Norse and Norse pagan and stuff like that, I see a lot of people on social media that jump on Christians and bash Christians because of what they have done or how they act, but that's not who I am.
Right.
I don't do that because that would make me no better than them. And if I stand in that doorway and I say you're a horrible person, well, what does that make me? If I'm pointing one finger at them, I've got 4 pointing back at me. Well, 3 and a thumb.
Yeah. Right.
My mom says
Sure.
that all the time.
Really? Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Norse paganism too. Like that's a different one, man. You know,
Speaking
you
of
don't
which,
hear
man,
about
Mjolnir.
Yes, sir.
that. What about you, Embalm, man? Is your beliefs at?
You know, this is a tough one because I'm in the quest for truth, right? So I'm
Right.
like trying to figure out what's really there and like what's not, what's made up by humans and what's real. So in like from the sort of research that I've done, I've noticed that there's always a trend in the religion, in all religions. Let's be honest here. I mean, there's always a story of how to be a good person. There's all kinds of different guidelines on how to live and rules to follow and like little rituals and stuff, and even in Catholicism, they say rituals and all that are bad, but let's be honest here, there's rituals in Catholicism when you're getting up in church and standing in a line going to get a wafer and some wine as the body of Christ and the
Sit,
blood of
stand,
Christ.
kneel, sit, stand, kneel, sit, stand, kneel.
Oh, yeah,
That
that's
was
all
the
ritual,
worst
man.
part
Right.
of all of that.
You know what? Screw
Oh,
going to the
man.
gym. You don't even need to go there. You just do that, and there's your squats for the day.
And it's very bad for your knees.
It is. Your
Church
knees
burpees.
at 31, my knees are all cracked and all. And I'm just kidding now.
Yeah.
But no, anyways, like that in itself is a ritual. And just in just general, like religion for me is just like you were saying earlier about fitting in. I've never felt like I fit in at all either. And so I don't look for the next trend. I look for something that I can actually feel comfortable in, and just try to guide myself in a mindset. So I don't even look at it as like a religion anymore. Like I like the mindset of the Norse, and I like you said, they stand for themselves, their family, and their community, and that's why I kind of got into that while watching the Vikings and all that, and it's all factual based. So that really interested me too, and just feeling comfortable in your own skin, like that's something that's important to me as well. And if I go to like a church or something, I'm just like I don't feel like I fit in, you know.
Right.
And at that time I had I'm growing my hair out again now, but like at that time I had longer hair and kind of like the same type of hairstyle, and I've had old little ladies like, what's that stand for? It's a hairstyle, lady. Hello.
I'm emo and I slit my wrist.
Well, I had it tied. I had it tied up and stuff. So like
Yeah.
they're what like it looked, and just that was kind of like their way of like judging already, and they're supposed to be like, oh, don't cast a stone, blah blah blah, but that's all bull crap at the end of the day. They all judge.
Yep.
And that's just not what I'm about. Like, there needs to be an understanding somewhere, and that's the whole point. Like, how are you supposed to welcome people in your church if you're just gonna already assume that they're an outcast?
Right.
So I'm just
Embalm,
I would say that I'm not an atheist. I
Yeah.
would say I'm like an agnostic, if you will. Like I acknowledge that there's all kinds of different beliefs and all that, and there's different gods and deities, but I don't know what is real and like what's factual. So I'm just on the quest of that.
Yep.
I can relate, man, because when I went to Apostolic Church, dude, like that church was full of millionaires and I was in the middle to low class, and like I'm supposed to fit in this youth group, and yeah, dude, I didn't. And
Right.
so yeah, I can completely relate.
Cory, what about you, man?
I'd say for the last 23 years, pro wrestling has been my religion.
Yeah.
It's real silly, but the thing is, like, it's 11 years ago. 11 years ago, I had to have brain surgery, and they did all these live scans of my brain, and
Right.
I remember seeing I remember seeing the electricity just like going off in my brain, and I was like, that's what God is. That's what puts oxygen in my lungs. That means part of me is what God is.
Yeah.
So the energy and I don't think of my ancestors. I don't think of my ancestors as like my parents' parents and my all that. I don't like look at it as like my genetic relatives. I look at it as like I think I come from a long line of warrior spirit. And I think that in my past lives I've probably been a gladiator, I've probably been a warrior. Like I've seen myself in a in a huddle, with other warriors, like we're going for a hunt.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where my spirit lives. But
do you get like a relief when you're doing it? Like when you're wrestling, is there like a sense of just release, of just like positive release?
Bro, it's the dopamine is like associated with getting a crowd reaction, like the gratification, like if you watch the Gladiator, like listen to the way the crowd roars when you stab a man's heart. Like the crowd roars what keeps you alive, and that's something that I think has motivated me in wrestling for so long. And then in comedy, it's like okay, cool, I get to go get reactions off of my words, and I don't have to get punched in my face or take any of my clothes off.
Wait, you don't have to take your clothes off if they're already off, bud.
But yeah, I mean, I totally relate to the not fitting in with anybody, like ever. I remember once in like a music class, I was a sped kid, so I was in special ed. I had a hard time focusing on anything. My eyesight was very bad, and on top of that, a very severe attention deficit disorder. And so I remember like trying to not pay attention to most people. And then like the music teacher in the one class, like I was only in like normal classes with like electives, right?
Right.
So in the music class, everybody like, he was like, oh, everybody team up. And everybody teamed up and like kind of left me by myself. And they're like, oh, let him join your team. The nerdiest kid in the whole fucking class. His last name was Butt. He said, I don't even like that guy. Oh. And everyone, the Butt kid doesn't even like that guy. Oh
my God, yo.
So, yes, I get the not fitting in thing.
Mr. Ass was his name, right? Mr. Ass.
Yeah, Mr. Ass.
Before
But
Billy
look
Gunn.
at me now. I'm Cory Kastle, and you're somebody whose name is Butt.
Daddy of the Ass Boys.
Mr. Ass will be watching this and going, oh shit.
Dude, I meant to bring up how inspired I am by something I watched in a New Age Outlaws Q&A today.
Right.
So Billy Gunn and Road Dogg were like having a Q&A with these people, and somebody asked something and they were like, oh, what you did 35 years ago, not to make you feel old. No offense. And the guy and Billy Gunn went, no offense. Have you seen me? Have you looked in the mirror? Like, and I was like, oh, that's like umbrella statement for me. Like, consider every single source who ever tries to judge you in any way. So like when you said there was old ladies asking you about your hair, it's like, yeah, well, and I've been a long-haired guy my whole life too. I understand that. Like, yeah. I totally understand. But it's very much like, oh yeah, I have long hair because it's part of me living my dream.
Right.
What have you ever done? Nothing. So suck a fart, dork.
I've always just kept my hair buzzed, man. There was a very short phase where I did like a grunge emo look, but it didn't last very long, about 2 months.
I'm trying to keep every bit of hair that I have on the top of my head, but I've got 4 girls. I got 4 daughters. That's going away really quick.
Yeah, that would definitely make that hair go away. I've gone through so many different stages. I've had like the metal like hair down my back. I've had my head buzzed. I've had spiked hair. I've had just all kinds of different hair. But now I'm just kind of like, fuck it. Let's shave this shit to like nothing and just grow the top out as a decent length and just fucking go with it.
That's how I started. That's how I
Yeah.
started. I grew
The
my hair
hair-
out when I was 14, and so I've had long hair since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't even remember what it's like to have short hair anymore, which is pretty
It's
fun.
weird. Yeah, no, it's weird. Especially when I got a cut like this where I like can feel it all the way buzzed. Like it's just buzzed. I mean,
Oh,
it's,
dude, I miss that. I miss that coldness on my pillow, though.
yeah.
Like at night, laying down with the cold. I
Oh
I
yeah.
have no idea what that feels like anymore.
Oh man, you get one of these days. You just got to kind of maybe do an undercut. Just let that shit just
I
happen.
can't though, because
Ah.
they put these big old scars on my head,
Oh god damn.
so I can't
man.
cut. So all up the side here, these big zipper scars on my head.
Can you put
So-
tattoos over those scars?
I don't want
Hey,
tattoos on my
you
head.
could you just go full PCO. You could just go full PCO and rock
Fucking
rock
Bam
your
Bam
cut and
Bigelow
go
that
crazy.
shit.
So,
Yeah, I mean-
Mandy M commented, this is my wife. She must be watching in the other room. She said, "How about when you tried to grow just the top out? That was a bad phase for all of us."
How long
See,
did
I
you
just
grow
can't do
the
it, man.
top?
It was about where it was a little bit longer than yours. No,
Okay.
it wasn't as long as yours. It was close. It was a bad idea. I was trying to do the whole slick back look just on the top, and it just wasn't working for me, man.
like Edge's current hairstyle.
Yeah, like
gosh.
Rhea Ripley,
Yes.
right?
It's
Yes.
like Rhea Ripley.
What I'm
So-
lacking on my head, I make for on my face. So that's
Well,
all.
you
good.
know.
Yes.
There you go.
You have a magnificent beard.
Full on Tommaso Ciampa. Let's do it.
Yeah, see, yeah, Champa right there. Yeah.
So it's funny because my wife and I were looking at there was the Church of Satan website because we were just curious, and actually, believe it or not, they invest a lot of their money into good charities and good foundations and stuff like that. It's not even close to what the public makes it out to be, and
The
honestly,
church-
most of them don't even believe in Satan. They're
That's
just
so wild.
kind of against the Christian belief more. It's just like a rebellion against Christian belief.
Well, the Church of Satan's actually like amazing. They do a lot of humanitarian aid for people, and one of my good buddies on TikTok, his name is Satchel, and he's Satanist, and this man is one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. And that just goes to show. But on top of that too, like Satanism isn't about worshiping Satan. That's demonism. That's a different sect of Satanism. Is technically not Satanism. The
Right.
belief of Satanism is you're your own god. Nobody is above you.
Right.
If somebody does
just think about like when you're praying, you're really just kind of giving yourself your own confidence is really what it is. You are the one who has to go out and achieve it. But when you're praying, you're just kind of building this confidence up in yourself.
Well, it's
Yeah,
like when you read the
that's-
Bible, right? It says if you pray hard enough, you can move mountains. And I'm like, okay, if I pray right now, will I move fucking mountains? Probably not.
Right.
So,
Dude, readings for nerds.
the only mountain
I'll-
you can move in life is the one between your legs, right? That's the only one you can move.
I will say, if you're a Christian and you're listening to this and you decide to read Satanic Bible, be prepared for nightmares. That's all I'm gonna say. Yes.
Yeah, it's
You see,
insane.
Scary shit.
See, the Church of Satan had written me a couple times.
Oh, really?
Left me something in the mail, and I have all kinds of different materials all over my walls here. If you can see, anybody's watching the video. I thought it was the Church of Satan, and I was really interested at first.
Church of Satan, yes.
The Church of
Satan. He's a magician.
You should just make your place that you create a church, and then you could just do a tax write off. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
Well, would it be a tax write off, or would the tax that hold them up be a write off?
Oh, that might be a write off. Yeah. They'll be keeping an eye on you at all times.
As I've been growing like on TikTok and Instagram, because I've really been kind of pushing to build a following for my shows and stuff, I've been getting a lot of like people trying to get me to join the Illuminati. And I'm just like, nah, man, I'm too busy. Thanks, though.
Hey, you'll blow up like Jay-Z overnight.
You won't get
Legally rename my
president
kids
anymore.
Blue and Pillow.
Yeah, Pillow and Blue and in Southwest and East North and all that other nonsense.
Oakwood.
Okay. So as far as like once you pass on, okay, like let's kind of I'm willing to get like into the paranormal side of things, but do you guys believe that when we pass on that we linger or that our energies are still around? You know, in my opinion, I feel like our energies still exist on this plane of existence, you know, for a time until we find another, you know, capsule or reborn. Um, and it's more like the realistic version of believing that something happens afterwards, in my opinion, you know, that if we have an energy and it does exist after, it has to go somewhere. You know, and that's just kind of my opinion of it.
Well, the Norse, the Norse believe that if you die a violent death in battle or defending your home, you're taken away by the Valkyrie and you go to Valhalla. There's also a belief that if you don't die in a violent way, that you go to the halls of Odin, but you don't. It's not necessarily considered Valhalla. But I believe, and I talked to you about this last night. I believe in like a universalist idea that something happens to me. I don't know what happens to me. I could roam on this planet as a free spirit. I could be abducted by aliens used for science. Who knows? But that's only time will tell.
Right. What do you think,
I know that I've had paranormal experiences like M-Bomb. So
yeah, and we'll get into those because I have a pretty interesting one myself. But
that throws the kink in the machine right there.
Right
there. Yeah,
and that does it. It changes everybody's perspective if you do experience something that you know you can't explain.
Right. Then that's what screws me up, right? So I mean, I don't know. It's really fucked up because I've had so many people pass on within the last 10 years. I mean, I had a really close friend of mine. She we dated for like a month and all that. So we really had some good history. And then one day I find out she died like a week before I found out. And that really made me question, you know, a lot of things because I was like 21 years old and I'm like, God damn, like, you know, just you're thinking like, okay, she was only 21. What happens after this, right? So then you get on that whole like long stretch of period of time where you're like, what exactly happens when you die? So I think about it like this. Okay, so I have different theories in my head. You know, there could be a heaven, there could be whatever else. You know, it could be in limbo because the paranormal seems to like stick around whatever it is. And I have another theory on that we'll talk about later on in the show. But you know, the most logical, the most scientific one would be there's nothing, right? But like you said about energy, like once something isn't energy always in motion. So like, where does that energy go?
Mhm.
If we are energy,
Yeah.
where does it go? So then you start thinking, okay, so it can't just be nothingness. It can't just be like a turn off of a TV and that's it. That energy has to go somewhere. So it's very confusing, especially when, like you said, you know, the paranormal and all that stuff, like you experience it. So that it does throw a wrench in all that stuff. And you're like, okay, so what is that? And I have another theory of what it could possibly be. But right now that's what I'm trying to figure out, like what
Yeah.
exactly happens after this life, you know.
Right. Cory?
I I quote this all the time, but one of my favorite podcasts. I mean, I'm sure you know Dylan. It's called "You Made It Weird" with Pete Holmes,
Yes.
and he had on his podcast Brian Regan, who's also one of my favorite comedians. And Brian Regan, Brian Regan said, "It's the only question everybody finds out, but nobody knows." And he also then told us, and it sticks with me all the time. He's like, he was like, what if there's a guy who like goes to visit his best friend and his best friend dies on the table, and his best friend wakes up and he's like, there's nothing, and then dies. And then, and then he's like, oh, okay, kids, I guess let's go get ice cream.
Oh man.
I think about that kind of stuff. I think about honestly, like, it's funny because like I'm such like a non-committal to say like, yes, I believe there's this or there's that, because I really and even after saying like I believe my spirit has been warriors and I've been bought my ancestral uh, uh, spirits and my guys that follow me. I don't. I say that, and I feel like at the same time, who knows?
Yeah.
And I feel like but I feel like it's like such a human thing, like a human ego thing to go. Yep, I know. Well, it's gonna be this or it's gonna be that, and somehow I know, and I'm absolutely right about it. It's like
Right.
like it's our business to live the type of life that would affect people if there's nothing else that would inspire them to also be good and kind people.
Right.
And I think that's our example. And I say like I lost one of my best friends, Aaron, just a couple years ago, and like we talked about this shit all the time before he died.
Uh-huh.
And I don't feel him. I don't feel him at all. I don't feel him around me. But I remember all the fun shit. I quote him like 4 or 5 times a week. And then I still miss him all the time, and I still talk about him. And I think that's what keeps him alive. I think
Right.
his son carrying on his name and like going on to be a good man. I think that is a little bit of what afterlife is.
Right.
And I don't know what the spirit's journey is, but it might be that that energy goes back into the earth. Like it returns to the earth because like the earth is the electricity that keeps our brain motors
Yeah.
going. The wind that blows through the trees that brings the oxygen back out to us. That's all God. That's all what life is. That's all before and after and still and it. I don't want to say like, oh, I know that it's going to be this or going to be that because I'm absolutely just some dingbat from Philly who you know.
Yeah.
I seen
Well-
something on TikTok that said, "What if you pass on and then you wake up to a bright light and it's you crying reincarnated because of what you left in the past life?" And I was just like,
That's yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? Like when you think about that stuff. Now you said that you don't feel your friend. Let me ask you this: have you ever had a dream about this person that passed away? No.
No.
Yeah. See, that's the weird part. So the girl that I knew that passed away 10 years ago. Periodically, I'll have dreams, and it's kind of weird because it's like, okay, dreams. Okay, it might be mental, it might be something else, right? We don't know where our dreams come from. Sometimes you're not even thinking about something, and you have these dreams. And I just recently had this dream of Sarah, this girl that I'm talking about, and I remember distinctively it felt real. It felt like she was there. The voice was the same, everything was the same, and I asked her, "Where have you been all this time?" And I forget what the response was, but in that moment, I'm like, I knew what I was talking about. I knew I wasn't thinking, okay, where have you been, like as in life? Where have you been in this realm that I was like? It felt like, and so like I take that kind of dream, and it's almost like a realm that I'm in. Like it's almost like a place where you can visit those people that have passed on. And I feel like whatever your belief is on visiting and all that stuff, I feel like there might be something to it because there's certain things that um, they're saying to you that might not make sense in the moment, but then you like later think about it after the fact, and you're like, oh man, that makes sense. And I do remember one dream I had. It was like through a radio, and I was like hearing her voice, and this was like 4 or 5 years after the fact. And I was thinking it was weird because like it was almost like she couldn't be there in like physical spiritual form or whatever, but she was still trying to get a hold of me. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like yeah, it's weird that you said that. So when you said that you don't feel this person around, that's why I was kind of thinking like, did you ever have a dream of this person?
No.
Man.
You know what's funny too is like it's like something about me. I've done some of this stuff on stage before, but I talked about how there's this girl that used to work with me, but she she was like she was real nice, she was real cute, she was real sweet. I had a little bit of a crush on her, but then like towards the end of her working there, she like bleached her hair, and she was blonde, and it did not look as good. And my crush for her was gone.
It was gone.
And I just was like, okay, you can quit now, and I'm fine. I'm fine with that. And then she stopped working there, and then like a week later, they sent out this memo that was like, the girl died.
Oh,
The girl got shot, and she was
What?
murdered in the streets in Philly. Okay, she was at this party, and a drive-by happened, and she was a bystander. And then like she worked at our job, so they were like, oh, everybody's gonna get the day off to go to her funeral. And I remember there was the girl was young, she was only 20, 21, something like that. There was tons of people showed up, the line out the church, like crazy sellout arena.
Sold out the church, all the seats are sold.
So when I got in the line, and finally, like, the line got into the church, and I got close enough that I could see her again. I forgot about the blonde thing, and I went, ugh, too much dye.
Oh my god, yo! Is that too soon? Is that too soon?
I just thought it.
No, right on time. That's what it was.
But then I was swiping through Tinder, like a week later, and I saw her profile, and I was like, oh, maybe I should screenshot it. But then I was like, nah, she's been shot enough.
Oh, ouch.
Oh.
You know, I do want to kind of play off of this, not necessarily comically, but
Dark
death.
humor, my friend.
Just death. You know, in the U.S., we're one of the only countries that like fear death, and we're like raised to fear death. And they're like, oh, well, they were so young. You know, why did God take them? You know, they weren't taken. Death just is. It happens. It exists. You know, you walk down the street, get hit by a car, boom, done. It's our physical forms are meant to die. You know, it's just a thing that happens. It doesn't need to be something mourned over. You know, of course, people care about others, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's because something happened. Yes, people die of cancer. It's because the physical bodies get cancer. You know, it's not something that we can control. You know,
People are weak ass little bitches.
Yeah, that's actually summed it up for me.
Please don't quote me on saying, "Oh, Cory Kastle states the cancer."
Cory's saying that human bodies are bitches.
No,
you got cancer. Don't be a little bitch. Okay,
finite. We're just very finite. We're all, as I've heard it said before, and I don't know who I'm quoting, so forgive me. But they said we're all sandcastles that the tide is coming for. Right, and I liked that a ton. Yeah. But I mean, like, hey man, I'm gonna make the biggest castle. I'm gonna make the most impressive castle. I'm gonna make the most undeniable castle there is, and that's me, Cory Kastle.
I think looking at death, you know, in the perspective of doing what I did as a profession for a while, I held that belief, like, oh, death is such a, you know, it's a natural thing. It is, but then there's a part of death that is unnatural, you know. So like natural being cancer, sickness, COVID, whatever. But then you look at somebody, I lost my best friend. You know, we were talking about friends that we lost. I lost my best friend in 2012. He was blown up by an IED right in front of me. I watched it happen. I seen the life slip from his eyes. And to me, that is unnatural. And it took 10 years for me to be okay with it, and not be okay with what happened, but be okay that he's no longer here with me. Right. But there's a natural order of things and an unnatural order of things. And I feel like there's that divide in the middle. Like, okay, where do we fall, you know, in that spectrum?
Yeah.
But see, and that's kind of where when I talk about energies and learning their lessons, you know, there's different ways of learning things, and, you know, seeing that and your energy processing that is a lesson being learned, and you have to learn and grow from that. Just as anything that happens in life is something you have to learn and grow from. Yeah. But it's not something you're going to learn in one lifetime. I mean, there's too much on this planet for us to learn, and too many lessons for us to learn, that there's not within 100 years there's no way it's gonna happen. That's just not. So and then there's the universe is so massive. So to believe that we are the only existence is kind of it's dumb.
It's a waste.
It is. It's just a waste of a universe.
Mhm.
Might as well be a flat earther.
And if we are the smartest life form in this galaxy, God help everyone. We do some dumb shit.
Oh my god! Right now, it's an eye opener, man. How humanity can just be so dumb.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I see society getting dumber and dumber every time. I'm just like, why are we not getting smarter?
You know why? It's because they're doing things like watching us on their phones.
Well, you see, I liked Dumb and Dumber a lot. That was one of my favorite movies. Dumb and Dumberer, the prequel, I kind of like that. Dumb and Dumber 2, nah.
Not your favorite?
No. I mean, it's all right.
But think about how
Wasn't what I
simple
was
of think about how simple of a life they had too. They didn't
Right.
care. They didn't care what
didn't.
people were thinking of them. They were just being
like,
themselves.
For a very long time, because we're talking about silly buddy comedies that I was into. For a really long time, I based a lot of what I thought happened after you die off of like Dogma, the movie Dogma, Kevin Smith's Dogma, and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Like buddy comedies sculpted my idea of what the afterlife was.
What about Dragon Ball Z? Could you imagine you go on Snake Way and all that? And you just go to King Kai and get trained and all that shit. That's the afterlife. And then you can get wished back by the 7 Dragon Balls.
That was all gibberish.
Right?
Crazy to see Dragon Ball Z, huh?
Crazy to think about, but we're sitting here saying, it astonishes us how dumb society is getting. Think about 20 years ago. There's probably people saying, I cannot imagine how more dumb society can get. And then 20 years prior to that. So we are literally just mimicking what other people, not purposely, but literally mimicking what other people have said, about us.
Have you ever seen the movie WALL-E, the Disney film WALL-E?
Years ago.
That is like what I see us as a future being.
Oh, that's like the OG Black Mirror.
Yes,
it's like the OG Black Mirror.
It's the children's version of Black Mirror. Is what it is. It's the
children's version of it.
But yeah, you're just like living on this massive ship in space, trying to find another place to live while you can't even walk. You're just like scooting around in a chair and asking for food. I mean, come on, man. It's just we are losing our sense of our animal instincts, and it's embarrassing.
Well, back in the day, people would worry about what day they were going to go out and hunt. What were they going to bring back for food? Now we're worrying about what bathroom we're going to fucking use. I mean, what the fuck is going on?
Where's my phone charger? My phone's about to die. How many times I've heard that at work? Somebody freaking out and seeing if you have a charger because their phone's going to die. Like, why? Why is that even a thing?
Years ago they would have never thought that would even be a thing, but here we are.
Dude, this is the most amazing time. Like we've witnessed the most amazing time in the development of human technology. Honestly, we've been present for it the entire way.
Yeah, the very first cell phone. Mm-hmm. I mean, AI. I've been around for the whole. I had a pager. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I remember those. Christ, man.
and now, the very first Nintendo came out when I was a kid. I was so excited about it. Atari was already a thing of the past.
Yep.
Now, you got a Nintendo. You're old. You're old.
Yeah. I think that's the right way to do it is to have your kids start from the bottom up when it comes to stuff like that, like video games. Do not start them off with like a PS5 because they're never gonna take it for granted. They don't understand like what we went through. Like we saw little pixels and we're like, oh wow, look at the graphics, and then we just bumped it up to like N64 and we're like, oh, it can't get any better than that. And fast forward to now and it's like, wow, that shit's crazy.
Yeah, I do want to kind of let's kind of touch base on the paranormal aspect because we're gonna wrap it up here soon. But
okay,
does everybody? I mean, Cory, do you have a paranormal experience? I know some of us have talked about it. All right, well then you can wait. You can wait.
Just shut up. You can just sit there and listen like a good little bitch.
Feel free to ask us. Feel free to ask questions while we're talking. So when I was a kid, I had a dog named Reno. He was a Shar-Pei, purebred Shar-Pei. He was my best friend. I had a room in the basement of our house, It was an older house, and the window in my room. My room was the only room in the basement. It was like this
Can I
makeshift.
chime in and ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you have a dog that's a Shar-Pei, are the piss stains permanent?
Piss stains on the carpet. Yep.
That's good. I like that. That was really good, man. Anyways, so he was always sleeping in my room, and so I had a ground window in my room. Again, this is an older house. The window was painted shut since before we even moved in. Nobody ever opened it. We never even we tried, but we couldn't get it open. So at night, the dog would sleep with me. And Shar-Peis are known to be aggressive dogs if you don't train them properly. And I remember he was about 4 years old. I'm coming home from school. And the process is I come home, I let him out of the barn in the backyard and feed him, water him, whatever. Well, one day I came home and he wouldn't come out of the barn. And he was kind of playing with me, but he wouldn't come out of the barn, which wasn't usual for him. And I went to go grab him, and he bit my hand, and I had to go get stitches. But I called my mom. I was freaking out. And later that day, my stepdad came home, and he was like, "Well, he's gonna attack one of the other kids." So he took him out to a field that night and maced him, and then shot him in the face, and brought him back to the house and make me take him into the woods. This is my best friend. Made me take him into the woods behind our house and bury him. So it was late at night, and there was this creek in the woods behind her house, and there was this tree that he would always sleep under whenever we'd be back there playing. So I buried him there. I was like, man, that'd be perfect for him. So I did it. It was late at night. I remember being terrified. I did it so quick because I was just scared. And I ran home, and about a week had gone by, and I remember waking up in my room, and there was just enough moonlight to kind of make the layout of my room. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, man, it's cold. And the first thing I realized is that window is open. And I'm like, okay, so I'm just dreaming. And then I feel something move between my legs, and I just hear this growling noise, and I don't really see anything. And then I wake up, okay, I was just having a bad dream. Well, the window was still open. There's mud and dirt all over my room. And I'm like, holy shit. My first reaction is my stepdad's going to beat me. That shouldn't be my reaction, but it was. So I stripped my bed, threw it in the washer, and then I went out to where I had buried my dog, and it just looked like a caved-in hole. There was no corpse. There was nothing there. I don't know what happened, but it happened. It was a very terrifying experience for me.
And then you woke up, right?
No, I'm not joking. Like, this actually happened. I told my sister about it later. It took me a few days to tell my sister. I never told my parents because I was scared I was going to get in trouble for lying or whatever. But
bro, you got Cujo'd. You got Cujo'd.
Yeah,
but
sometimes dead is better.
Whether it be but if you
Pet
think about it
Cemetery.
from the realistic version of it, it could have been that he was dug up by an animal and eaten.
Pet Cemetery, real life.
I don't know what happened, but what I do know is the window was open. There was dirt all over my room, and there was an empty hole, and that traumatized
You heard the
me,
growling. Yeah,
the growling in my dreams, whatever it was, whether it was real or not. And that made me a skeptic because at that time, as a Pentecostal, I was told that animals didn't have souls.
Right.
It wasn't a thing. It was just us. So that's when I started to sort of questioning my beliefs. But yeah, that's my first paranormal experience.
Wow.
That's heavy, dude. Like, wow.
Yeah, you straight up got Cujo'd, my guy.
Yeah, my
That's
dude.
wild. I've had paranormal experiences practically my whole life, even up till now. And I know it's hard to believe, and even for me, like it's hard to believe. I grew up when I lived in Maryland. I grew up in a weird triangle where we had the Antietam battlefield over here from the Civil War. We had Frederick, and then we had Harper's Ferry, and then somewhere in the middle is Burkittsville, where the Blair Witch Project was filmed. So there's a lot of lore around that area, a lot of paranormal stuff that happened, and you hear a lot of it, but you don't really pay attention to it because it hasn't happened to you. And so when I was probably about 15 or 16, some of the most notable things in my childhood happened like very, very close to each other. So my grandparents had just remodeled their dining room, and there was windows all along the back, leading up into the hill that we that was over top of the house. And where the window was, there was a straight incline, so like almost nothing could fit in there, at least to eye level. So one night I'm sitting there and we had this old TV. You remember like the old TV where you'd hit the channel, it'd go to dark and they come up, go to dark and they come up.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh God. So like I'm sitting there and I hit the button and I see these two red dots like over my shoulder from outside the window. And I was like, that's weird. The TV shouldn't be doing that. So I click it again and they're still there. And I click it again and it's still there. And I turn around and like red dots, right? Parallel right to me. And I'm like, okay, this is fucking crazy. And so I stand up. As I stand up, it stands up. As I move, it moves. Like literally, it's mirroring my image. And I turn around, run to my grandmother's room, and I told her, I said, hey, this is what happened. She goes, oh, I know. I said, the fuck do you mean, Like,
No.
what do you, yeah, what do you mean, And then that's when I learned about her experience with witchcraft.
So when I hear red eyes like that, first thing that comes to mind is hellhounds.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
But I asked her, and she said that she was messing with some tarot cards one night, and she felt something next to her. And when she looked up, there was a pair of red eyes.
Oh man.
And it says, "I've got your sons, and I'm coming to get you and your husband." And it's weird because, like, when she told me that, I started making parallels of things, and I'm about to tell you guys some really sensitive family things.
Yeah.
My dad, when he would get extremely angry, he'd put a hat on, and all you could see was this. You could only see parts of his eyes. When my uncle was in the KKK. Enough said.
Right.
When I get angry, the only thing you can see is my eyes. And so, like, I started making a parallel to that, and I was like, okay, that's weird. So then a few days later, we had this massive, like, weird event where the house lost all power. It was in the middle of the summer. House lost all power in the middle of the night. And I was awake for when it happened, and I lived in the basement, and this is why I'm terrified of basements. So I'm sitting down there, and the door to the upstairs opens up, and my sister is like, hey, Sean, I'm scared. Can I come down? And I said, yeah, no problem. So she runs down. She's a few years younger than me. She runs down. As she's running down, I can hear a second set of footprints behind her. And I'm like, get the fuck in here now. And like the doors that I had were cabinet doors. Not cabinet doors, but like closet doors where they opened wide and then they latched.
Right.
And so when they opened up, I shut them, latched it from the inside. And when I did, it was like the door shook and you could see the door shaking for a minute straight. And I stood there petrified, couldn't move. And then it stopped. And from that point forward, I said, when I move out of this house, I will never come back to it. And I did one time and I regretted it. I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Damn. It's crazy, man.
Yeah. So like that's why I like to listen to different stories like that, because I know like we've all experienced, at least some of us.
Unless you're Cory. Unless you're Cory.
Not Cory though, huh? When you talk about those stairs, I've had a stairs incident before. I remember it was like at night, and my sister actually heard these same thing. Like nobody was home, so she experienced it when nobody was home, and we were all like in the Thousand Islands, which is in New York, like kind of up more north of the state. So she was alone in the in her room, and she heard somebody coming up the stairs. Well, I had the same experience. There's a lot of different experiences, but I remember this one specifically because I remember expecting somebody to be, because they were home. Somebody was home, but nobody was there. They were downstairs still, and I thought that was weird. I was like, okay, I just heard somebody come upstairs, but nobody was there. And then like another instance is I remember as a kid, my grandmother was still alive, my grandfather was alive, and I was like a little kid in their house. And I remember specifically hearing like footsteps in the hallway. And I didn't think anything of it. I just was like, okay, that's weird. But like now looking back at it, like I think to myself, okay, what was that? Who would it be if it was like a ghost in their house? And to be honest with you, I mean, my parents live there now in that house, and let's just say it's had its fair share of hauntings.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just set up a camera in the middle of like we would go out to dinner, and I would just set up cameras and stuff and night vision and all that, and you would hear like different things and have different things happen. Like I remember specifically hearing a chair move on its own, but unfortunately, the camera wasn't pointing towards that chair, but you knew what it was because you just know that the sounds in your house. So, like the house I'm in now, right? We moved here in 2019.
Cory, I can't hear you at all if you're trying to talk.
Oh, his microphone's off.
I once heard a chair move by itself, like drag across the wood floor.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I'm freaked out. And then I realized it was just my uncle blowing his nose and
blowing his nose.
That's good.
Yeah, so like in this house, it's freaking weird, man, because like I've had a couple of things happen, but most notably, there was this is a little bit after my grandfather passed away in 2020. There was a box that we had against the wall. It was an umbrella for like the outside table and all that, and it was sitting there for like months. And I have it on video. I actually have it from my Ring camera, and I was looking at a photo from my wife and I's wedding, and it was with me and my grandfather in the car before the ceremony. And I'd put it back in the drawer. And as I was walking towards the other end of the living room, the box just fell for no reason whatsoever. I'm like, yo, what the hell? And I even looked at the camera like, yo, what's going on here? So I put it back up against the wall just like it was. And I'm like jumping around, moving different ways. And I'm about 200 pounds. So this box not moving. And I'm like, okay, so what's the explanation behind this? Needless to say, I've been on investigations. I've been on paranormal investigations. I've gone to different places. If you never heard of Rolling Hills, it's an asylum that's here in New York. It's about an hour and a half away from where I live. And the lady that owns it, you can go in there and investigate. But there was one place that we just went to this past fall. And so there's these things that are called dowsing rods. Now, you usually find water with these rods, but you can also use them in the paranormal field as well. Yes is cross, no would be away. And so we're in the basement where this guy had kind of, let's just say he hung himself. Nobody knows why. But they always say that people you know will follow you on these investigations. So somehow, some way, we I guess, get in touch with my grandfather. And I asked him this, and I have it on video in one of my cameras that I brought with me. I asked him the question, was it you that had moved that box? And this is the kind of thing that really messes me up because I'm like thinking about it, like, okay, how do these rods, you can't do anything with them because they have these things where you just cannot move them. They move on their own. And it crossed for yes. And I'm just like, so how does that work? Like, is it real? Like, is this really him talking through these rods? And who else would know that answer as yes to that question? So it's beyond bizarre. Like, the paranormal is so, like, there's so much to it. And Cory, man, I hope one day you've witnessed this because there's a feeling you get when you see or hear something you know you shouldn't be seeing or hearing. And it's just like, it's a surreal feeling. I don't even know how to explain it.
Well, like I've gone. There's a famous place in Northeast Philly, closed down mental hospital called Byberry Institute. Have you ever heard of that?
No,
I have.
Okay, I used to go in there with my friends, like, and just go around and like, it was probably haunted as shit, but I never even like thought about it. Like, I just was like, looking around. We're a bunch of dumb jerks.
Fort Mifflin is really haunted too. I just watched an episode of a show on Fort Mifflin, and yeah, it's pretty terrifying. It's in your neck of the woods too.
My biggest memory from going to Byberry, my biggest memory, and this stands out to me, guys. Get a pen and paper out because you're gonna want to remember this.
On this day.
So these girls who I never ever met before somehow like came out of
Their
like
mothers.
no, there's like this like parking lot, and they like came and met us, and like they knew my friends, and and they were like, and my friend was wearing a shirt that said like like when you're a senior in high school, they give you a shirt that says
Yes.
like
Class
seniors
up
on it.
there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
senior 2009 or some shit.
Right. The kid had a senior shirt on. She's like, this jerk with his seniors shirt on. And I was like, this is the stupidest
Bro.
person I might have ever met in my life.
Seniors, yo, come on.
Seniors over here. But I don't have any paranormal
No,
memories
I do have
of Byberry. There was also a place. There's a place around here. I used to go exploring with some of my friends back in the day. Like there's a place called Crybaby Bridge.
There's
in Bucks
there's
County.
a crybaby bridge everywhere though. There's one here too.
I love urbexing, man. Urbexing's fun.
And we the one time we were parked in Crybaby Bridge, and this guy came up and he's like, "Can I ask you what you're doing?" And my friend Adam was like, "Well, the lure is like if you sit here, you can hear a baby crying." And that guy was like, "That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard." Now get out of here. And then Adam went, "Wait a minute, why are you here?" And he's like, well, "I'm down underneath the bridge taking pictures of spirits." Okay, pal.
Grab
I got
me
a
a pack of
question, though.
smokes.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
What do you guys know about psychic mediums?
Oh, psychics.
Like the overall thought of a psychic medium. Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, Daniel Jackson. He's also a podcaster, and he's a very real guy. And when you talk to him, he's very straightforward. But I think that there's a difference between being one and perceiving yourself as one. And it's not hard to kind of touch into somebody and their past and get their attention. Like, oh, that did happen. It's not hard to do that.
Mm-mm.
It's not hard to. Yes, everybody has a death in their family or something. And then they just kind of drill in on it. So there's the separation between that and just talking to somebody and then be like, oh, I'm being told to tell you this, or I'm being told. There's a total different level between that and somebody like, oh, I see this in your past or this and that. So yeah. I believe it exists. I believe there's those who have the ability to talk to energies and things that aren't in a physical form anymore.
Do you guys remember me telling you I had brain surgery 11 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they had to like peel this side of my face off. Like they cut my head and peeled my whole face off. So I lost all this nerve feeling in the side of my face for like 8 months. And then I would just every once in a while just get this sudden pains and I would always I would like hit my and it would just hit me like all this pain would just hit me right in my side of my face, like right up here.
Yeah.
And people would always like, "Are you okay?" And then I take that moment to kind of mess with them and act like I was having a psychic vision. Like, somebody with a J name in your life, they're in trouble.
Oh my god, I gotta call grandma. She's in the bathtub. I forgot her in the bathtub like 5 hours ago.
She's falling and she can't get up.
She's falling and she can't get up. You ever see those YouTube poops? Those are great.
Sean, so why are you asking this question? Is there? Do you have?
Well, yeah. I mean, if we're on the topic of paranormal, that kind of falls in the spectrum of paranormal, because it's out of the normal. But I had an experience with a psychic last month, actually. And I normally, when people come to me and say I'm psychic medium, I'm like, not doing it, just for the exact reason Dylan said.
Yep.
But this one intrigued me. She out of the blue, on TikTok, hit me up and was like, "Hey, I got to talk to you about something." And I was like, "Okay, well that's weird." And she was like, "First off, I want to say that you're going to make an impact on this world." And I was like, "Well, I kind of already know that." She's like, "You need to continue writing your book." I have told nobody except for my wife I'm working on a book, and I stopped when I started working on my recovery. Like, as a matter of fact, it's sitting on this computer right now, and I haven't touched it. She's like, "You need to continue on your book. You're going to help more people with that book than you realize." And I was like, "Okay, well, you have my attention now." Yeah. And then she was like, you lost a friend a while ago, and she described him to a T what he looked like. And it wasn't like a generic, like he's got brown hair, he's wearing a dingy shirt. She was like, he has brunette hair, and his smile is infectious, and this is exactly what he said, and it was to a T what he said. And she was like, he took a gun to his temple. And I was like, yeah, that's him.
Wow.
And I didn't give her a name. And then I added her on Facebook. And when I added her on Facebook, I took a picture of him and I said, who is this? And she was like, that's John. And I didn't say a name. She's like, that's John. And it was instantaneous. And from that moment forward, like, I started listening to her, and she was like, your great grandfather served in World War II. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. She was like, you have a picture of him hanging on your wall. And I was like, what? Like, and there's systematic things that she has told me that I was just like, okay, you know what? Like, it's not a coincidence anymore. There's a reason why she came, into my life and talked to me about these things. And so that's why I asked about the psychic medium thing, is because, like, there are people that are meant to come in your life to help you out along the way that you're just like, why are they here? And I don't really understand why, but they're there to guide you. And so, yeah, that was just something weird that happened to me. She's awesome, though. She's
Mom,
a good
I want to
friend
hear
of
what you
mine.
got. I do want to. Good. That's awesome. And I have a good, Daniel Jackson's a good friend of mine too. But in Embalm, I want to hear your perspective of this, because I have a curveball before we end this, and I've been waiting. But I'm good. I really want to throw this curveball at you guys, and it's going to be interesting. But go ahead, Embalm, and I'm curious what you had to say.
I am straight up a skeptic. 2 words. John Edwards. Guy got called out as a scam artist. He wasn't really a psychic. He was just a scam artist. Look at Sylvia Brown, for instance. She's telling this lady that she sees her husband or something in water. And the lady's like, that's impossible. He died in the World Trade Center. She's like, well, he's telling me it's water. So I get skeptical on psychics. I get skeptical on mediums. I mean, so then when I hear a story like you said right there, it does joggle me a little bit, because I'm just like, okay, maybe there is something to it. Because how would that person know that you were writing a book when you only told one person in existence? So, like, I would need somebody to come up to me and tell me something that nobody else would know. It like that, for instance, for me to actually say, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. Then I would want to sit down with this person and talk more. If it's somebody who's throwing like stupid things like, oh, the letter A is coming to me, and I'm like, no, we're not doing this. I'm not playing this game with you, because I need to see something and I need to hear something that's actually holding substance. I don't need some bullshit ass letter or some, oh, this lady here is trying to get a hold of me. I'm like, okay, that could be anybody. So like those like generic mainline things are just I'm not good with. But I would like to. I would actually hope one day maybe to sit down with somebody that could actually surprise me. Like you had that experience there. That would be really good, actually, because I would like to sit down with somebody like that and kind of pick their brain about stuff.
Right. Yeah. Cory, do you have anything? I mean, have you met any mediums or people who said they were?
I mean, I've had a couple mediums on my podcast. Somewhat well-known TikTok personality, Oracle of Apollo, is actually a pretty dear friend of mine. She actually set me up with my girlfriend.
Oh man!
Right on, man. That's awesome.
And it's pretty awesome. Like our relationship's really healthy, and she's a rad ass person, and I'm grateful to know her. But I know when it comes to the work of it, when it comes to John Edwards and the scam of it, I have to go inside of my like my trained to manipulate, trained to work people and be over. Like that's what my wrestling training has taught me. Wrestling's fake, remember? So I get it. Like I fully understand the performance art of it. I fully understand the reading people thing. Like being a scoundrel, being like a it's kind of like being a a court jester or something. It's similar to that, like, validate me. Here's some value that I bring, and it's like, all I've done is convince you, dingbats, that I'm somebody who communicates with your dead people that aren't really there.
Heel turn.
Right.
Acknowledge me.
Acknowledge me.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Man, I feel like I think more people should be passionate about stuff like that guy was passionate about.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I agree.
like wrestling needs fans like that. Really, really does. Because that dude knows it's a work. He knows workers. Like, he's had conversations and he knows the ins and outs, and he's probably listened to tons of podcasts that are talking inside baseball. But that guy's so passionate. It's real to him in the fact that, like, that's the thing that he's subscribed to, the same way people subscribe to the stupid Bible. You know what I'm saying?
It's totally true. It's 100% true.
I have this guy that I used to work with. Okay, so I missed this like staff meeting that had happened at work. I was like absent one day, and I went in, and this guy, I said to the guy at work, I said, what did I miss at the staff meeting? He's like, oh, you didn't miss much, but like, we learned that Linda is an idiot. Okay, all right. Tell me about how Linda's an idiot. Tell me everything about how Linda's an idiot. And he was like, she seriously thought Tarzan and Jane were real people. What an idiot. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty stupid. Now that you mention it, that's pretty stupid. And then he was like, and then she started ranting about original sin. She's going on about Adam and Eve, and she's getting all the facts wrong. And I was like, pause. Wait, huh?
The facts.
Facts. So she's an idiot for thinking Tarzan and Jane were real, and you're not an idiot.
Well, excuse me. The fake people that I know are a different name than yours. So hey, hello.
I feel like that's a moment. I feel like
I
that's
mentioned
a moment where it's like Miss Lippy soda.
I want to throw this curveball now. Sean, it looks like you're good. There you are. You're good. You were glitching out there for a second. So let's say extraterrestrials exist, correct? And there's a reason. Like, there's probably advanced civilizations out there that are so far beyond us, they observe us as a planet, as a whole, as individuals. And they're not going to invade us. If they were going to invade us, it would have already happened. It would already have been done. Here's something I want to say, and I'm curious what you guys got to say. But what if our angels and our demons are really just extraterrestrials that know these things about us, and to talk to us and communicate with us, they use these energy fields? Like, when we talk up a haunted house and we talk up these things, we create these energies around these places, and then they use these to teleport. I mean, it's just as far-fetched as religion itself.
Yeah.
Where they teleport to these places and they use that energy and what they know to communicate with us. Right? I mean, that's not too far-fetched to believe it. Angels, demons, I mean, they're here to communicate. If they're trying to talk to us, if they're trying to communicate with us, and they know that you have a loved one that passed.
Right.
Why not use that?
Well, like, I think there's different versions of like aliens. There's like the greens, and then there's like the grays, and all that stuff. I think that like some aliens are actually us in the future. They're like turned into one of the grays or the greens, and I think that the other ones are like dead people from the past, like
right,
and they're all converged into this weird saucer that we really can't understand.
Right?
It's funny you're mentioning all this, because my other theory on the paranormal. So scientists, I guess, have said that parallel universes are like a reality, like it could be in existence,
like a multiverse.
Right. Yeah. So think about it this way. What
That's
if
my hometown when they ring announce me, they say I'm from the multiverse. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Nice.
Noise.
Noise. But think about it this way: what if the people that you think you're communicating with, like, say you're in like an asylum, for instance, and you get a hold of somebody and you're like talking to this person with like a spirit box or rods or whatever the case may be. Ouija board not really recommended, but anyways, what
By
if you're
Milton
talking?
Bradley.
Oh yeah, exactly. Talk slutting it up over here.
Is it-
But think about it this way: what
Speak
if
and spell like the devil. I was just listening to the Dane Cook album yesterday.
I love me some Speak and Spell. It's my favorite.
A-E-I-O-U.
But like, what if you're not talking to a ghost? What if you're talking to somebody on another plane? What if you're talking to somebody that's still in existence in their time era, and for some reason, somehow, some way, the parallel universes are kind of mixing and mashing, right? And they're
Yeah.
somehow getting in touch with you. I always thought about that as another like paranormal theory, so to speak.
See,
Well, I mean, I think I had something. I'm sorry.
no, go
Sean.
ahead, Corey. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was
We've
saying,
been talking more than you.
I was saying, I've said a billion times, like I had this thought a bunch when I was like a little kid, and I kept always thinking about, like, I remember. Tell me if you heard me tell this story before. We had this desk set up in our childhood bedroom, and in the on the sides of the walls there, my mom had tacked maps of the world, like one of like map of the United States and one is like the map of the entire world. And I remember like looking up at these maps and like looking at my hands and like looking at the TV. I think there was like a Nintendo game on, probably on the pause menu, and I was like looking at my hands and I was looking up at the maps and I started thinking about like the transaction, like the transit, like somehow this is a transmission that like someone else is seeing, like, but the audience is me. And then I started thinking about what if inside of me is like some transmission device for some alien reality show or something, like, and I started then thinking about like how I want my movie to be a movie I'd want to watch, and I'd want to make sure I have the kind of cast in my movie, in my show. Every single day of my life is an episode of this hit show, this hit
Friends.
undeniable show, and I want to make sure that it's the most entertaining and interesting show that can exist.
I have a theory on this. But first off, when you were talking about, you felt like if aliens were going to attack, they would have attacked a while ago. I mean, maybe they're just waiting on Idiocracy to sink in. Complete dumbing, like we're talking the movie with Owen Wilson, where people are just stupid.
They were in a Costco.
Yeah.
Welcome to Costco. Love you.
Go away, I'm baiting here.
But Costco.
Interrupted me while I was washing out my balls.
But what if there are doorways to other planes of existence? And I only bring this up because I was watching a show yesterday called Into the Wild, and there is this old Australian special forces guy that goes around and he goes and looks at different urban legends. Like he went and looked into the Rougarou. He went and looked into like the Sandman of the Mojave Desert, and like the Jersey Devil and stuff like that. And he ran into one where a kid had disappeared in the mountains. I can't remember what mountains they were. I'll have to look it up again. But he disappeared in the mountains, and he said that he was led into this cave, and he pointed out the cave. When you look at the cave, it's completely slabbed over. And he described what this cave looked like and described what was inside, and that there was a ladder to another existence. And he wasn't dead. He was very much alive. And when they found him, he had no shirt on, like he had seen when he had gone into this cave. So what if there are pathways to, or doorways to, other planes of existence that we have yet to discover?
I think to be into into the idea of religion, you have to also be into the idea of these kind of things because it's just as realistic. Because
Right.
you know the Bible and everything, they were made by human beings. A human wrote these things.
Exactly.
Well, also there's people that are Christians that don't believe in the existence of the devil. Like if you have Jesus and God, you have to believe in the devil because it's the struggle of good versus evil, the oldest story known to man.
But that's a story. It's a
Right,
story.
exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
Native Americans told stories through the stars. You know,
Yeah.
it's how we got the astrological signs and you know all the Orion's belt and Genesis and whatever. These are all stories that were created. You know, it's not just like Jesus dying and resurrecting 3 days later. You know, the sun reaches its lowest point in the sky for 3 days and then starts to rise again. You know, these are things that line
Yeah.
up with astrology and the history of everything.
Yeah, I mean, like we all know Jesus was like a historical figure and all that, but that's not the argument. And maybe you have people say, "Oh, Jesus never existed," but he did historically. I think the argument would be, was he actually God?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, who's to say? And then you got people that say, well, God wrote the Bible. He wrote it through people. And it's like, okay, but I could write something right now and say, well, I had the Holy Spirit in me and I wrote this shit down. And people are like, oh no, that's bullshit. Well, how come it's bullshit if I do it, but some guy who's like thousands of years ago writing down in a book, how come he was right? How come he was all of a sudden God in him? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I think just people want to follow what they believe in, no matter what it is.
Are you familiar with the book by Chuck Palahniuk called The Naked Lunch? Anybody? This guy was a pest control guru back in like the 60s and 50s when they used this powder that you could get high off of. And he got addicted to it for 2 years and wrote in a journal. And when he came out of it, he realized what he wrote, and there was this whole bug species that ran the government, and like this just whole in-depth, just alternate reality that he created while he was high and doesn't remember. And then it was on paper, and he made it a book. It's out. I mean, you can find it. It's a very interesting book, but he didn't know what to title it, so he threw Naked Lunch on it.
Okay. I'll have to look that up.
Sounds
But
like
it's interesting.
Scientology.
It's very weird, but it just shows you how easy it is to create something.
Right,
Whether
the burning
you're-
bushes that
yes.
talk and the talking jackasses, which we still have, by the way, every day.
I can take 3 grams of mushrooms and create a whole universe. I guarantee.
Yeah, you can make your own Bible. Call it the Jukebox Bible.
Yeah. But I do. Hey guys, I appreciate everybody being on here, and this is going really long, so we got to wrap it up. So
No problem.
But I do want some kind of last notes from everybody, at least what maybe we've kind of taken from this. And Cory, I really appreciate you being on here, especially being somebody who hasn't, really experienced too much, of a childhood as far as like religion and the paranormal. So thank you guys all for being on here. But, the biggest thing for me is for everybody that either listens or watches this is that be open. I think there's a difference between being told something and actually even seeing something. Our eyes deceive us all the time. You can see somebody but that doesn't mean that behind doors something else isn't happening.
Isn't like your memory is just a memory of the memory? It's not even really like of what actually happened or something.
Yeah, because our mind alters things.
Whatever story you told yourself. There's so many things, like there's so many sayings that I remember, like people saying real nice things to me or something, and me taking it in a very different way and quoting it wrong, but still meaning like, oh, you really meant this really nice thing, and this is how they said it. So I mean, everything can be like your whisper down the lane on your own self.
Right.
Yep.
Yes. 100%.
Broken telephone.
Yep.
What you got, M-Bomb?
Well, I guess the whole retrospect of all this, I guess, we're all just out here floating in nothingness, trying to find an answer. So, I mean, we're all, we all can make it look like we're all knowing what we're doing, but I don't think any of us know what the fuck we're doing. I think we're just out here just doing things, trying to survive and trying to figure out where we're going at the end of this. So one way or another, we are going to figure out what this will entail in the end, but we won't be able to come back and tell people from before what's going to happen, because by the time it happens, there's no coming back from that. So whatever is going to happen, we're all going to be in this together, so one way or another.
Yeah, Sean, what do you think, man?
Man, I think, just like you said, I think coming at it with an open mind, open heart, just practicing a little bit of humanity, we'll be able to relate to each other on a better level than we have been in the past. But I like what Embalm said about, when it's done, when the plug is pulled, then that's it, unless you come back as a zombie in the zombie apocalypse.
Yep. Well, that's why I always start my podcast with "The Dead Walk Among Us," because it's seemingly happening every day.
Speaking of that, Sean, what is your? So everybody, you can find him on TikTok. What is your TikTok handle?
I just changed it. It's Beard of the Gods.
Beard of the Gods. Nice.
Yes.
Nice. I like it.
Primarily because somebody put up that he's a beard god, and this dude has a small chin strap, and I was like, bro. No, get on my level.
Yeah. And of course, you guys can find Embalm on the Embalm Effect pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. He's got a YouTube channel as well, Embalm Effect.
Yep.
And you also started a weekly. Is it a weekly?
I'm trying to do a weekly vlog. So before podcasting, filmmaking was my thing. I loved making videos. Started off when I was like 14 years old, just doing stupid shit. Saved up money, grabbed a cheap Hi8. Well, not cheap, I wouldn't say that. $300 Sony Hi8 tape camera, and we just would film stupid shit. But over time, I just loved video editing and just seeing things come to light. So like cinematography and all that's freaking great. So yeah, I got that on there. You can find me on there. My real name, Harold Brush. You can find that on YouTube. Just started the channel, so go check that out if you haven't already. It's fun. It's a way to kind of like talk about things, but also be creative at the same time.
Right.
So,
and all of this will be in the description below. Everybody's links and whatnot. Corey, come on, man, give us an outro here,
y'all. Be kinder to your younger self. Really, be true to that. Like when you go, like I made stupid mistakes when I was younger. I was stupid when I was younger. Don't beat your now self up for mistakes that idiot made. And you can be like, oh, you're forgiven. You're forgiven for being an idiot because you taught me some valuable lessons. Be kinder to your future self through being kinder to your past self.
Right.
And make your future self be the version of yourself that you want it to be. Freaking cast your show, cast your episodes,
and evolving with Cory Kastle. I mean, that's kind of your show in a nutshell, right? I mean,
yeah, man. I really just want to make sure. I really want to make sure that, it's such a strange thing, and I make sure I constantly say it to you, Dylan, as often as possible. The currency of effort. The currency of attention, because there's so much other stuff that you could be spending your currency of effort and attention on. The fact that you've spent any of it on me, any of it at all on me, or anything I've had to say, or anything we've had to say here today, and if there's any takeaways from it, if we got some new people who follow our paths, freaking rad, dude. This is why we're here, to collaborate and to learn and explore new things. I'm not some nerd who reads books or does math or stuff, but I'll listen to stuff.
You'll give him a back body drop.
Yeah. I'll do the Scott Steiner math.
Oh man,
Steiner recliner.
Well, you guys, again, I really appreciate it. Everybody's information will be in the description of the show. And I just, everybody be open-minded.
Absolutely. I agree. Open
And
your mind.
if there's one thing
Absolutely.
that my grandpa told me before he passed was, don't waste your time being negative because it takes too much energy.
It really does.
Yes, sir.
It really does.
Boom. Boom.
Oh,
And that's a wrap, folks. We will see everybody
righty
later.
then.
Yes.
I'll see you guys later. All right.
Later, taters.
Bye.
Bye.